And yeah, she's in.
Okay. All right. Are we good, Lorraine? You need a second?
No, I'm good. I just couldn't get in.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.
Everyone's ready? Dylan? You're on? You're recording? Okay,
Good.
perfect. Very good. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Ridgewood Village Council Public Workshop Agenda, May 5th, 2021. The time is 7:32 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Bridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. Due to the fact that we continue to meet through a remote meeting format, there are some required announcements to be made. Deputy Mayor Seaton?
Thank you, Mayor. All participants are muted during this meeting. Anyone wishing to make comments may do so during comments from the public and during the public hearings on any ordinances by dialing *9 on your phones to raise your hand. And then once you are recognized, dialing *6 on your phones to unmute, or by raising your hand icon if you are on your computers. You must state your name and address for the record. Members of the public may also submit written comments to us for any future remote meetings by either email to Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk, at djackson@ridgewoodnj.net with the subject line "Comments for Village Council Meeting," or written letter to Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk. Written comments must be received by 4 p.m. on the day before the remote meeting in order to be read into the record during the meeting. All written comments must adhere to the time limits already set by ordinance. Members of the public commenting during a remote meeting shall not act in any manner to disrupt the meeting. If anyone becomes disruptive during the meeting, they will be muted. If time permits, the disruptive individual shall be allowed to speak after all other members of the public are provided an opportunity to comment. Any continued disruption may result in a member being prevented from speaking during the remainder of this meeting. Disruptive conduct includes, but is not limited to, shouting, interruption, and use of profanity.
Very good. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Seaton. Roll call?
Councilwoman Perrin,
Here.
Councilwoman Reynolds,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton,
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh,
Here.
Mayor Knudsen.
Here. Please join us for the flag salute.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of
the
the
United
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us in a moment of silence for our men and women serving our nation and our first responders. Okay, thank you. With that, we will go to public comment, not to exceed 3 minutes per person for a total of 40 minutes. Dylan? Please remember, everyone, unmute your device and name and address for the record.
First person is Audrey Gelling. Please
Good
unmute.
evening.
Hi, Audrey Galong, 989 Hillcrest Road. My comment, as a close neighbor and fan of Health Barn, I've been watching these meetings. On April 14th, you voted to get out of the RFP within a week. I'd like to confirm that this will happen soon, as it is now May 5th, and this conversation has been on the table since October. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Have a good evening.
All right, next person is Scott Leaf. Please unmute.
Scott, unmute. Oh, there you go.
Right. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Perfect. Thank you. Scott Leaf, President, Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce, 27 Chestnut Street. So why the delay? Why the delay in getting the request for proposal out for Health Barn? Now, I do understand this is the public comment section of the meeting and not a discussion. Therefore, my query is rendered rhetorical, but you can bet that is a question that's being asked throughout the community, as evidenced by the first comment, on a regular basis. Now that we've seen Health Barn is not some niche special interest with a handful of vocal support, it is clearly an iconic community business that has educated our children, has shown us better ways to live and brought more than $1.1 million into our central business district. Now, according to one local business owner, that is money that has been a vaccine for many businesses in our town. Now, the reason I asked for the delay is, or why the delay, is because I'm looking back and seeing this started way back in October, and public support has clearly been nonstop. Back on April 14th, the special public meeting left many with the impression that the RFP was soon to follow. Here we are on the 5th of May, still no news. I'm asking that this body act in an expeditious manner and move this forward. Whether you support it or not is a whole different discussion, nor does my point at this moment. Please get this moving forward and let this process work out. The delays have clearly strengthened the resolve of those in support of Health Barn, voices that will continue to swell and grow. I can only imagine that sitting there as an elected official, you really want to move past this topic, and I, for one, think that is the best course of action. And that will be achieved by getting the RFP out. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, next person is Rourke Hallaby. Please unmute.
Good evening, Rourke. Name and address for the record.
Yeah, good evening. Rourke Hallaby, 374 Evergreen Place. Give me one reason why anyone would want to do business in Ridgewood. I got a call 2 days ago from Gustavo, the owner of Bagelicious, and he mentioned how frustrated he was. Turned out he signed the lease for his store in August, and it looks like it'll be summer before he thinks he will be able to open. How many bagels will he have to sell before he can get his investment bank? Why isn't Village Hall doing all it can to help Gustavo move the project as quickly as possible? Now let's talk about Health Barn and how proud we were to listen to Governor Murphy speak so highly of Stacy Antine and what she has accomplished for Ridgewood. I understand it'll be the end of May before the RFP is issued, a good 6 weeks after the Village Council approved its issuance. 6 weeks? 6 weeks for what? A document that is perhaps, 3 to 5 pages long? Is it that Village Hall is so busy, or is it because certain people are doing all they can to slow walk the project? I read history, and I can only think of how Boston lawyer Joseph Welch admonished Senator Joe McCarthy during the 1954 Senate hearings. I quote, "Until this moment, Senator, I think I never really gauged your cruelty or your recklessness. You have done enough. Have you no sense of decency?" Now, a comment about the budget. Again, I think Bob Rooney should have town hall meetings to explain the budget. The way I see it, there is so much to explain, especially with the new state-approved accounting procedure of allowing certain revenues to be projected using the past 3 years and not necessarily the lower but more realistic projection for recent experience. This is okay if the recent drop in revenues is temporary, or if the shortfall is made up through US government aid. If neither eventuality is enough to cover the shortfall, what we are doing is just kicking the can down the road. And the longer we wait, we wait to face the problem, the worse it will become. If I understand economics, we would need to raise taxes by 10% to balance the budget, not the 4.3% thanks to the accounting change. Which makes me think, what are we doing to get our financial house in order? Gimmicks will only take us so far. We need to take a hard look at every penny in the budget. We need to take a fresh look at how our services are provided. One example, and I'm thinking outside the box, is merging our police department with that of Hohokus. What would we give up if we were to do that, but what would we save? I understand, and I might be wrong, the police chief and police captain in Hohokus announced their retirement. If true, wouldn't that be a good opportunity to study the subject? Thank you.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but the beeper went off. I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good evening. Warwick. Oh, okay.
All right, and next person is Regina McNamara. Please unmute.
Good evening, Regina. Name and address for the record.
Regina McNamara, 974 Hillcrest Road. So 2 days ago, our governor recognized Health Barn Foundation's good works in fighting food insecurity. But it bothers me that still there is no RFP for the gatehouse. You all voted in support of this weeks ago, and now it's time to expedite this matter and be the committed stewards we elected you to be. Let's get this done, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, Regina.
Next person is Scarpa. Please unmute.
Good evening, Linda. Name and address for the record.
Scarpa, 569 Northern Parkway. Okay, can I begin?
I'm sorry, Linda. Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
The plan on February 21st, 2021, Village Council stated twice, defund the low paid per diem EMT and remove them from all daytime EMT calls 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Let them only work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. calls Monday through Friday alone, and also weekends, day and night. No pay whatsoever, even though their total department salary is $70,000 funded by ambulance calls, not the taxpayer. Then hire 2 more firefighters, even though they already got one in December 2020. Let the fire department do all daytime EMT and fire calls Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. without any EMT at all. Taxpayer obligation for 2 more firefighters is $200,000, which includes pension, benefits, and stipend, and a proposed 2021 tax hike of 6.29, which includes 4.3 municipal plus 1.99 school. Following, it was stated on the Village Council meeting, February 2021, a question was, basically, you want to defund the EMT? Answer, are you comfortable to take over the daytime EMTs? F said, yes, we can pick up backup from other towns. Firefighters can work on a deal with other towns for backup. Obviously, the entire council and fire chief are not confident this is even cost effective nor safe for the village. The entire plan is based on speculation, no facts, no labor costs, no safety studies. The plan places the entire village at a serious potential for risks. The mere fact to suggest that F can ask for help in other towns is unproven in terms of financial costs for the calls. And it will cost the village even more in critical time to EMT calls from other towns, resulting in potential deaths. Yet this is never mentioned in any meeting at all, and I don't know why. Instead, it's now slipped in the 2021 budget to hire 2 new firefighters mid-year. It was said in prior meetings, we think this is the best path forward. How do you know when we're not spoken to? Where's the transparency concern for safety? We say table the plan, ask the taxpayer what we want before it's too late. It was stated to me once, at what cost safety? Consider this, defunding 9 per diem EMTs who will leave. Disseminating the volunteer program with no daytime hours will eliminate the vast community service the EMT provides for decades, versus hiring 2 more firefighters to perform all daytime EMT and fire alone without the EMTs and 0 community service. Your plan, truth told, results in less first responders, more labor costs with 0 village support, and places the village in a serious safety issue where even deaths may occur. I highly encourage for you guys to table this out of the budget. You have the ability to do so and do a survey, or at the very least, alert the village to your plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, next person is Hans. Please unmute.
Good evening, Hans. Name and address for the record.
Yeah, Hans-Jürgen Lehmann, 234 Union Street. Good evening, council members. Tonight, I want to ask this council and the village manager about the Habernickel property. To the best of my knowledge, no RFP has been generated for the use of that property. Also, to the best of my knowledge, the promise of delivering an RFP within 2 weeks has been made on more than one occasion, putting the lie to the promise. Though many residents and interested parties have made known their approval of the current use of the property, namely Health Barn, it strikes me that the council's present policy may be to stall an RFP. That would force Healthborn to make the decision to look for other quarters. All of us who have spoken up about Healthborn for so many months now would feel this as a betrayal of the trust and faith we put into our elected officials. As I have said over and over again, you represent all of us, not just some complaining few individuals. Please, please do your job. This evening, I am speaking to you for the third time about the council's role in One Village, One Vote, but more specifically about the role of the village clerk and manager. As noted before, the appellate court decision makes that person's role very clear and clearly states her shortcomings in her legal challenges. Once again, I request that this council take appropriate disciplinary actions against an employee who has caused the taxpayers to cover undue legal fees. We deserve better than this, especially given the strong voice of voters in favor of the referendum this past November. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Next person is Jeannie Johnson. Please unmute.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, Jeannie.
Jeannie Johnson, 325 Maston Place. I want to recognize Mahmoud and Gigi Hamza for planting 2 trees to honor our frontline heroes and essential workers and volunteers, excuse me, who helped our village during the height of the COVID pandemic. The Hamza's family hopes the trees will be a lasting reminder of how to move forward in times of great need. And I'd like to offer a special thanks to Council Member Michael Seaton for speaking so eloquently at the event. And thanks to Heather Mylander and Councilwomen Walsh and Perrin, who took time out of their day to attend the ceremony to honor these brave men and women. Excuse me. And I'd also like to mention that it is disheartening that a group of us came to the Village Council in the beginning of October of 2020 and requested that the Village Council move forward with an RFP for Health Barn USA, and we're now in the middle of May. And I'm not sure what the holdup is. I am positive that things could have moved forward more efficiently. And I just want to encourage the council members to really, do their best to try and lead our community, make decisive decisions in an efficient manner so that our village can move forward together and do good like the Health Barn Foundation has done. And the same goes for, other initiatives in town, that it takes a decisive leader to make sure that our community is at its best. So I just want to encourage all of you to just make decisive and efficient decisions for the greater good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeannie.
Next one is Cynthia. Please unmute.
Good evening, Cynthia. Name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm 149 Woodside Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey.
May I have your last name, please?
Olsen, O-L-S-E-N.
Thank you so much.
Hi. I just want to say I agree with the questions that Ms. Scarpa made. My question is, who has the capability to be the first person on the job as regarding the EMT situation, and who has the best necessary training? I have an 87-year-old mother, and I want to be ensured that when I call a 911 number, the firehouse is not diverted to a fire. I realize that they have the capabilities to do EMT training. However, my doubt is that's where their first priority is. That's really all I have to say, but that's my biggest concern, is the safety of our community, especially during these hard times of COVID. My mom has just spent 9 days in the hospital, and the EMTs, I will have to say, saved her life. That's all.
Thank you, Cynthia. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. I have no others.
Okay. Very good. Why don't we go to the letters, Donna?
Okay. The first is from Susan Varaday, 111 Sherwood Road. Dear Mayor Knudsen, the purpose of this letter is to comment on a statement you and the village manager made at the prior village council meeting addressing the monitoring of village pickleball and tennis courts. You both confirmed at the meeting that both pickleball and tennis courts are being monitored by an attendant hired by the village, implying that both are receiving equal treatment and attention by the monitor. However, this is not accurate. Please be aware that there is a paid monitor, parentheses $15 an hour, who sits in a chair at the entrance to the pickleball courts, almost continually monitoring the entry of mostly senior citizens like myself who play pickleball. However, there is no such monitor sitting in a chair at each of the numerous village tennis courts, similarly monitoring the mostly younger tennis players. This is what I and the other senior citizens who play pickleball find to be most humiliating and what I believe to be discriminatory against senior citizens. Also, since pickleball easily and conclusively passed the sound testing, it is no longer rational to limit the days and hours of pickleball play. Rather, the pickleball and tennis courts must be open the same days and hours. Regards, Susan Varaday. The second is from Izzy Shamai of Sook Pastry, 24-26 Broad Street. Good evening. It came to our attention that there is a movement at the council leaning towards canceling the corrals after the end of June. I'm writing this email to strenuously object to such a decision. As I wrote to you before, the corral in which we have placed 4 tables and 4 persons each had become the lifeline for us during this very tough year. As you are aware of, the pandemic had been particularly difficult for our industry. At some estimates, 80% of us, the restaurant racket, had to shut down, causing tremendous harm to the people that were employed at our establishments and to the character and draw of the villages, towns, cities in which we operate. Many days, my wife and I, after paying our employees from our meager savings, had come to the inevitable conclusion that we will be forced to close and abandon our dream of adding a bit of indulgence to our beautiful and accommodating village, which we love. However, we kept soldiering on, creating pastries, chocolates, and breads, and bringing them out to our very grateful patrons that needed a bit of sweetness through all the stress that this pandemic had brought upon them. Then came the idea of the corrals, to which we immediately grabbed on. Once we placed our bubbles there and tables inside of them, we were able to see people while adhering to all regulations of social distancing. And since that month, we were no longer operating in the red. A miracle. We did pull through, as you can see from the many testaments on social media and alike. Everybody here in our village have nothing but the deepest praise for us still standing, serving our staff against all odds. And now you're thinking of taking it away? Let's discuss it for a second. Why would you deny us, Sook Pastry, of having our corral? One, retail businesses are complaining, while there are no retail businesses alongside our corral. 2, disturbance to traffic. Well, if you do not have the corral, vehicles would be parking there anyway, so it wouldn't become a wider road. 3, additional parking on the street. Those 2 spaces we occupy would not make a dent, especially while the big parking garage across the street is empty most of the time, as you must be aware of. 4, lost revenue from these 2 spaces. As discussed prior, Sook Pastry will reimburse the village for any such loss, not even calculating downtime when the 2 spaces aren't occupied. From us, the village will receive back-to-back full occupancy, as if these 2 spaces were always full. I can't think of any other reasonable reasons why not let us have our corral, beautify our area, and add some unique character to our street, which will become even more of a draw than it already is. Please let me know of your time of discussion, and I'll be honored to come to the meeting and try to make my case. The next is from Randy Carson of Park West Tavern, 30 Oak Street. I've heard that there's some consideration being given to close down the street corrals in June. I would love some clarity regarding this. I'm having a hard time believing it's true. This pandemic has made all of our lives a yo-yo. I personally have never experienced such a large amount of peaks and valleys in the past year and change, mostly due to circumstances beyond our control. I feel like I've been chasing this virus since it started and have never been able to get out in front of it. I really thought that we were finally going to get a jump on the virus this spring. We've made plans and purchased tables and chairs with the idea that we would be able to have some sort of pedestrian mall and corral seating. Finally, we are slightly prepared for the new reality. Here comes the valley. A reduction in the mall and no corral dining will be hurtful to our businesses. I'm not going to say we're not busy, because we are. However, we have had so many additional expenditures over the last 13 months that we're still in the catch up and stay alive mode. The closing of the mall and the corrals will prevent us from catching up. We've done everything we can to keep all of our management, floor and kitchen staff working, and we have thanks to all of you working with us over the past year. Thank you. Now, for the reason the spring and summer plans are being changed and surveys are being taken to determine how we're going to approach the next 4 months. Shouldn't we have been having these conversations in February? Once again, we're in the chase mode. I may not even need the furniture we've purchased, and if I need more, the delivery time isn't until August and the price of it has doubled. This is not easy for any of us. Never have we experienced anything like this. The feedback I've gotten from residents and out-of-towners is so positive concerning the mall and corrals. They're so happy the village is working with us. This is set up to be a great summer for the village. When things get close to being normal, things will change yet again. Our village will experience a slowdown as people will catch up in city trips, vacations, school, and commuting. Things aren't always good and things aren't always bad. Let's not let this opportunity to be great this summer pass us by. I'm available anytime to discuss in person or at a roundtable. Time is of the essence. Thank you for your consideration. I look forward to hearing from you all. And the last. My name is Matthew DeMulder and I live on 53 Crest Road. I've spoken numerous times to the Village Council about this issue, but I would like to reiterate the importance of contending with the RFP process for Health Barn. Like I have previously mentioned, Health Barn is an asset to this community, and the RFP process is a necessary step for all parties involved. It is time to get this done. Health Barn has been doing great things for the community, especially with their grant initiative, and the RFP is the first step towards helping the institution and its stability. Thank you so much. Please stay well, Matthew DeMulder. That's all that I have.
Thank you. So we'll close public comment. Heather, do you want to just give us 2 things, an update on that Health Barn RFP?
Yes. Bob Rooney, Chris Weathershouse, and I met and discussed the RFP. We're in the process of putting it together. It will then go to Mr. Rogers for final review, and then it will go out. So it'll definitely be out before the end of the month. And I realize the sooner the better. So we're going to push to get it out. There's no other reason that it's been delayed other than that it's not a 3 or 4 page document. It has RFPs have a whole bunch of documents that have to be in there by law. And so it's taking us a while, but it will be go out right. And we will put our efforts into getting it out as soon as possible.
Then the next thing was Susan Barati's comment about the monitor, because I thought we did say, and I thought we've confirmed that monitor isn't supposed to be there just sitting all day, right?
Again, that's my understanding. And I know that I notified Nancy Bigos that if that's the only place that monitor is, that it's not money well spent. And so perhaps we'll have the pickleball players monitor themselves and make sure that they, have the badges and everything, or we'll have the monitor move to the tennis courts as well.
All right, and then I had one question real quick about the corrals, because I did hear from a number of restaurant owners. If we want to just continue that, we don't really have to do anything. We're just going to do the billings. Is that accurate, or do we have?
Right. So we've billed for May and June. The thing is that we have additional places that want to have corrals. Okay. And at this point, we're not saying yes, because if we're going to end it in June, it doesn't really make sense for us to allow for that. So if the council wants to change their mind, we can discuss that now if you want, after public comment's done. Yeah. It's not on the agenda, but if you decide that you want to do it at least through Labor Day or something, then it's worthwhile. But otherwise, it's not really worthwhile, and we can bill them for the time.
Can we just do that real quick? And the reason I want to raise it is because we did the grab and go through October, and I think some other questions came up about some maybe idea or understanding that the dining corrals could be made permanent and a number of other things. And so the restaurants that said, well, we're happy to pay for that. And so I just think I mean, for me personally, if the restaurants are saying they need this to continue and, you know, we are going to have a pedestrian plaza over the summer, I think maybe it's just important that we continue on. I'm hoping everyone feels the same for now, at least, so that we're not, you know, imposing any harm on anyone. We're just allowing them to continue.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I certainly think that those who are counting on having a corral, I think it's appropriate to continue with them. And then as a matter of fairness, the other restaurants, if they need it, you know, they should have that same opportunity.
Yeah, I
if
think
it's physically possible.
Yeah, I was going to say if it's safe and physically possible, because I think that the corrals that we currently have, they went through a full review to make sure that they were safe. And I know that we've talked many times about the safety of driving around them. But I think we have to also talk about the challenges in the CBD. I was in having dinner on Friday night and the traffic was a mess. Illegal parking, U-turns, people nearly hitting pedestrians. I mean, it's a major concern. And there were Ridgewood police there patrolling, you know, doing what they were supposed to be doing. But you know, I'm really concerned about the safety, you know, in the CBD. It's really critical that we keep an eye on that.
I agree. And I think that maybe we can have this conversation just with Bob, maybe this week during the day, just in terms of billing, and a couple of things popped up on, and I did have the opportunity just to speak to Mary Ann Bucci Carter about things they've done in other areas. So she's going to forward me some documents on that, and I can share those forward, and hopefully we can get that resolved as well.
Okay, and so did you want to do it through Labor Day or through October like we did for Grab and Go?
I think for me, for the time being, I think we should continue on through October and then kind of see where we're at, if that makes sense to everyone.
Yeah, we're not through this yet. We're not through the pandemic yet.
Okay, so the corrals will be through October 31st.
And I should also say, I might not see this as just a temporary pandemic program. I am open to the idea of making it permanent, but I don't know that we need to address that right now.
Yeah, I don't think we need to address it, but I did just trying to be a little proactive. I happened to had a conversation with our village planner today about a whole bunch of stuff, and that kind of popped up on the radar, and we just had a very brief conversation, and she was going to provide some materials. But I agree with Councilwoman Perrin that it's not something that has to be on the radar now, but something that, you know, we should look at in the future.
And to Councilwoman Walsh's point, every time I see somebody make a U-turn, my heart's in my mouth, because they're also backing up at the same time, and it's so dangerous.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something else we should take a look at. And I know it's not a conversation for now, but whether or not we have to look at, you know, the U-turn, the law, signage, and increased, you know, ticketing and fines and enforcement. So another conversation, but we're good with that now.
Yes.
So can I just make that my last item on public comment was the EMT issue. So I just want to address that now because I know there's been a bunch of Facebook posts on this by a handful of individuals. So I think it's important that this be addressed. So I just typed up a little comment, and I'm just going to read it so that everybody understands why this is happening. The primary interest of the village is to provide a network of services coordinated to provide aid and medical assistance from primary response to definitive care, involving personnel trained in the rescue, stabilization, transportation, and advanced treatment of traumatic and medical emergencies. Safety and health are the incentive for the village's programs and most competent, emergent, and efficient medical access to the residents and to persons who visit the village. The village finds it necessary at this time to make modifications to daytime EMS protocol due to multiple instances where per diem EMTs fail to appropriately respond to calls for emergency medical services. Those failures resulted in Ridgewood firefighter EMTs having to act quickly to respond to those unanswered emergency medical calls. As such, for more than a year, Chief Van Gore has been providing direct daytime oversight of per diem EMTs. However, significant staffing issues persist, making modifications paramount to ensuring public safety. Chief Van Gore has prepared a comprehensive plan to cover daytime hours to ensure calls for emergency medical services are responded to quickly and professionally. Ridgewood's EMS will handle all of the calls under the continued supervision of EMS Chief Brian Savaria. To be clear, volunteer EMTs are not being defunded or changed in any form. The village is taking this public safety issue seriously, and we have great confidence in the professionalism of both Chief Van Gore and, of course, EMS Chief Brian Savaria. So with that, why don't we go to manager's report, Heather?
Sure. I just want to announce that on or about May 15th, the Glenwood Road Hill will be closed for approximately 30 days to improve the Hohokus Railroad crossing. And when the road reopens, it will be one way down the hill. The final date for voter registration for the June 8th primary election is May 18th. The village clerk's office will assist you with voter registration from 8:30 a.m. to 9:00 p.m. on that day at the customer service windows to the left of the lobby doors off of the main parking lot. When you arrive, if there's no one at the customer service window during the day, please dial 201-670-5500, extension 205 or extension 206. From 4:30 p.m. to 9 p.m., someone will be at that customer service window. Reminders for parking. All residential parking regulations are now back in effect, including no overnight parking between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., and all of these regulations will be enforced. We do have 24-hour parking spaces available in the train station lot and Cottage Place lot. And in addition, overnight parking in the Central Business District is open to all Ridgewood residents. And if you have friends or relatives who would like to take the train or bus from Ridgewood, Ridgewood parking permits for commuters are available to non-residents for the same price as residents. And all of these basically will continue through December 31st, except for the 24-hour parking spaces. We'll reevaluate that in the end of July. The next one is our Vulnerable Population Outreach Coordinator. I've announced this several times, but I think it's worth repeating. We have hired a Vulnerable Population Outreach Coordinator through grant funding. This person will work to ensure at-risk residents in the village of Ridgewood have access to support services that they may need. Some examples include a neighbor or relative who is a Ridgewood resident and is elderly, economically challenged, or suffers from mental illness and may need assistance. If you know anyone who needs this assistance, Mariani Cornelio is our Vulnerable Population Outreach Coordinator. She can be reached at 201-670-5500, extension 244. Grade Pool membership is now open on Community Pass. The pool season runs from June 5th through September 6th, which is Labor Day. If you have any questions, please call the Recreation Department at 201-670-5560. Grade Pool informational breakfast for older adults will be held on Saturday, June 5th from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon. Grade Pool welcomes our older adults to celebrate summer 2021. Saturday, June 5th from 10:30 to noon, enjoy a wrapped breakfast, live music, and learn all that Graydon Pool and Park have to offer. Registration is required. Please email Deanna Shablik at dshablik@ridgewoodnj.net or call 201-670-5500, extension 301. The Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce annual sidewalk sale days are May 13th, 14th, and 15th. If the weather is bad, sales will continue inside. Great discounts for summer fun and gift items at great prices. Plenty of parking in the new Hudson Street garage. Age-friendly Ridgewood events. Property tax relief is on May 12th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Elder Law, May 19th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And Medicare 101 for the baby boomers is June 1st, 7 to 8:30 p.m. All of these will be held on Zoom, and you do have to sign up through the Ridgewood Public Library's website, which is ridgewoodlibrary.org. The Village Council upcoming meetings are broadcast live on the public access channels. Also, It's streamed on our website as well as on YouTube. And the dates are, next week is May 12th is our Village Council public meeting at 8:00 p.m. May 26th is our Village Council Public Work Session at 7:30 p.m. And then on June 2nd, we have another Village Council Public Work Session at 7:30 p.m. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Perrin?
Thank you, Mayor. Open Space Committee has not met since our last meeting. However, I forgot to say at our last meeting that the Open Space Committee discussed whether they were in favor of waiving the open space tax as part of this budgeting process that we're going through. And the general consensus, with one person opposed, was that they think the tax should be levied. This point is perhaps moot based on my discussion with Bob Rooney earlier today, but I did want to let you all know that. Open Space Committee, along with the Parks and Rec Department and the Ridgewood Wildscape Association, have 3 walks coming up in our parks. On May 8th, I'll be conducting a walk through Citizens Park on the west side of town. And I hope that the wisteria is still in bloom there. May 15th, that's May 8th, Saturday at 10 a.m. On May 15th, Saturday at 2 o'clock to 3:30, there's an event, A Peek Inside the Hive. That's at our apiary, and it will be a talk by Frank Mortimer, the master beekeeper in Ridgewood, and I can't wait to go. There was one last year, and it had to be canceled right when the shutdown happened. So I've been waiting a year for this. The registration is $20 per person through Community Pass. And last, on May 16th, actually, this is not last. There's going to be a series in all of our parks and open spaces, but on this flyer is May 16th, Sunday at 1 p.m. There will be a nature walk in Kings and Gypsy Pond. That is on the east side entrance where you park on Mountain Avenue and go into the cul-de-sac at McKinley. That's where the stairs were built by the Eagle Scout, Alex, can't remember his last name. So membership dues for the Ridgewood Wildscape Association will be collected at that point, and they are $5. Green Ridgewood, the subcommittee on renewable government energy aggregating held its town hall last Thursday, co-sponsored by the Ridgewood Public Library Sustainability Series. And we had a lot of good questions, enthusiastic participants, and we will be speaking again at the League of Women Voters meeting on the Ridgewood League of Women Voters meeting on May 13th at 1 o'clock. That meeting actually starts at 12:30, but we're not on until 1 o'clock. CBDAC has not met since our last meeting. However, with regard to the Transit Village exploration, I'll call it, I did send around to all my colleagues here in the council the criteria for eligibility and the application form. Heather, can we put that on for the next work session? Okay, great. Also, when we had our meeting last week, the property owners in town had a meeting, and that was CBDAC's idea to foster a community among the commercial property owners in town. And by all accounts, we had about 80% of the CBD property owners who attended, and they found that they had a lot in common, and they do want to meet quarterly. So I'm so pleased that this kind of community is happening. Okay, Chamber of Commerce will meet May 12th and will elect new officers. I do want to commend Scott Leaf for being an indefatigable president. He's everywhere at once and has done a great job in terms of Feed the Front Lines and all the grand openings that have happened. Oh, there is another grand opening about to happen. That is for Little Nest Photography. Darn, I didn't write down the date. I apologize.
Oh, I might have it.
You know what it is, Mayor?
I'm look when I get up. Well, let me take a look.
Okay.
It must be on my calendar.
Yeah, I think it's
So
Tuesday or Wednesday.
yeah, it's coming up. Anyway, so I did want to thank Scott Leaf, and he's done so many videos and always been so upbeat. So I've really enjoyed going to the meetings that he's conducted. That's all I have.
Okay, and I haven't seen that yet, but it's in here somewhere. Okay, anyway. Councilwoman Reynolds?
Thank you, Mayor. I have, it's May 12th at 11 a.m. is the ribbon cutting for Little Nest Portraits.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the planning board met last night. There was an application to amend a major subdivision approval for 315 East Glen Avenue that was carried to May 18th without further notice. We also listened under Historic Preservation Commission review. We listened to 2 items. The first was for the building at 24-26 Prospect Street, which is the building that on the first floor houses Sam's Barbershop and Ferology. And a new owner has taken over in the last few months, and he is going to be revamping the outside of the structure, because if you've passed by recently, it's peeling, it looks terrible. His color choices, I think, are fabulous. He picked 3 complementary colors. You know, just exciting colors, in my opinion, not the old white. So I think it's going to stand out. It's going to look great. I can't wait till it's done. So they approved that. And then the second item was a proposed sign for a new place called The Villa, and that will be open at 52 Chestnut Street, and that sign was approved as well. Our next meeting is May 18th, and the next Citizen Safety Advisory Committee will be on Thursday, May 20th. That's all I have.
Very good. Councilwoman Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor. So as Heather mentioned, we have Mariani, who is going to work with our vulnerable individuals. So all of the Adopt a Senior people that I've been working with are going to transition over so that the word can get out to all those people that we served during COVID that have been living amongst us quietly and just they didn't really know all of the services that are available. So I think that maybe we should discuss as a village sending out a little card to all seniors, maybe if it's just a mailer that can go out so that everybody is aware that we have this resource, because what we found during COVID was that many of the seniors only watch television and have a landline still. So they were not on computers and they did not have a way to email. I have met a neighbor that I didn't know that's a block away, and we've been communicating back and forth. I've brought her stamps. I've helped her get her vaccination appointments, things like that. So sometimes they just need a phone call for somebody to help them. So I'm really glad that we have that resource now in the village and in Dawn's department that obviously did such a great job during COVID. I was asked to read this note of thanks for Toiletry Tuesday. On behalf of the Ridgecrest community, please accept our heartfelt thanks for all the hard work in promoting Toiletry Tuesday and for the generosity of the greater Ridgewood community. May is National Older Americans Month, and this year's theme is Communities of Strength. Toiletry Tuesday is truly an indication of how strong the Ridgewood community is, especially when taking care of their neighbors in need. While I'm able to say that there were more individual items donated this year than any other years past, it's impossible to calculate the positive impact that the donations will have on our residents. And that's from Sue Ulrich. So that was, again,
Toiletry Tuesday is something that happens at Ridgecrest, and more people are getting involved. So that's another shout out to the community and the good works that they're doing. And then on this coming Saturday, the American Legion is once again going to be doing a service at Valu Cemetery. And then it was an Eagle Scout project, I think 20 years ago now. I'll have to ask him. But we're going to be putting in the flags. So show up, more hands, make the job much easier. And I believe Congressman Gottheimer is going to be there as well, helping to put flags in. So 9 a.m. Saturday, Valu, anybody that can show up, bring a screwdriver so you can make a little hole in the ground, and it's a lot of fun. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Councilman Walsh. Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Thank you, Mayor. I think a caller mentioned it before, but I also just wanted to thank the Hamza family for their donation to 2 trees for the frontline workers who have been out there during the pandemic. Mahmoud's great, and he's a member of the Shade Tree Commission, and he's really active and doing a lot for trees and the village in general. And then on Saturday, the Shade Tree Commission handed out nearly 100 bare root seedlings to village residents. It was a program that was organized by Carolyn Jacoby, who is also a Shade Tree member, and she did an excellent job in putting the program together. And several of us showed up at her house to bag the trees on Friday, and we got together early Saturday morning and handed them out. And we did it in the Graydon parking lot, and it ran very smoothly, thanks to Carolyn's good work. So that's all I really had, and that's it.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So before I say anything, I was remiss in forgetting something from public comment. Heather, when you get a chance, can we just find out what the status is with the Bagelicious?
Yes, I will.
thing?
I have been following up. They had said it was moving forward, but let me see if I can get a more definite date.
Okay, because I know Mr. Hallaby raised it. I made a note, and I was remiss in not making that comment. So May 15th, actually the pedestrian plaza will be happening this summer. Second week in July will be starting. And this Saturday, May 15th, will be one of our local bands will be doing a Bruce Springsteen Born to Run concert in the park at Van Ness Square. So hopefully everyone can join us for that. We'll post that on the village website with all the time and get it down on social media. So it's really exciting. We anticipate having bands in the park and music downtown Ridgewood throughout the summer once again, and we're really excited about that. And I actually don't have anything committee-wise, but I do want to say that speaking of Congressman Gottheimer, a few weeks ago, the village was actually able to rally very quickly and organize a grant application to be submitted through the community project funding. CPF is a new initiative for fiscal year 2022 that allows members of Congress to request direct funding for projects that benefit the communities they represent. The new initiative entails stringent eligibility, ethics, and transparency guardrails. It's only available to state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, as well as some nonprofits. Only projects with evidence of strong support from the community will be considered, and evidence of this support and community need is required as part of the submission. So the first thing is to thank everyone once again for writing letters, all of our elected officials, Board of Education, Village Council members, Commissioner Hache from Bergen County. The amount of letters that we got really in such short order was amazing. So we're really grateful to everyone. The congressman did call me yesterday to say that he's advancing our application as one of the 10 that he's permitted to submit out of the many. And I have his certification letter to Congress requesting that this particular item be advanced. Funding for this project is essential and is an appropriate use of taxpayer funds to directly ensure safe drinking water to the village of Ridgewood, townships of Wyckoff, Glen Rock, and the Borough of Midland Park. In addition, when treatment plants come online, it will provide much needed access to treated water for other adjoining utilities and municipalities. So we're really, really excited about this and grateful that Josh Gottheimer is our congressman representing us and working so hard on our behalf. It's just amazing. And thank you also to village staff, to Heather, and to Rich Calby for the big lean, and then Mike Drulis also. So really, really exciting that we're being advanced by Congressman Gottheimer. 1 of 10, but we're there. And with that, I guess we're going to go to presentation for the update to the budget adoption.
Correct. So Bob Rooney's here and he, I believe, has a PowerPoint for us.
So I'll preface the PowerPoint by just reminding council that on April 14th, we held a hearing on the budget that was introduced. At that time, I indicated that there would be a need to amend the budget based upon feedback we got from local government and some other changes that we elected to make. So for consideration next week, council will be looking at 3 resolutions. One is for the 3-year average of the revenues that were used in the budget to be adopted. Our original resolution that we did not, let me back up. Local government decided that we needed to include the averages that we were going to use in the resolution. We did a resolution, but we did not include it initially. So you will be asked to adopt a resolution next week that shows the 3-year average, which I'm going to go over with you in a minute. You'll also be asked to adopt the resolution for the amendment to the budget. And the last would be to adopt the budget in total. So I'm going to try and put this presentation up. I apologize for the eye test on the revenues, but hopefully this will be clear and everybody will be able to see it. Let's see here. Wait, right here. Okay, so the budget that, and again, we reviewed everything that I'm presenting to you at the hearing, but I'm just refreshing your memory in case there's any questions before we go into the presentation for next week. The operating budget is still at $52.9 million. After amendments, we are looking at a 4.3% municipal tax increase, which is approximately $16 a month on the increase for an average assessed value home of $701,644. Our tax increases are the primarily result from the 2020 revenue shortfalls that we had as a result of COVID. And we also had 6 years of modest or no tax increases ranging from 0 to 2.2. The municipal tax rate increase, however, was minimized as a result of our ability to utilize a 3-year average of prior revenues, which hopefully this schedule looks a lot clearer than the one I tested you with earlier. But this primarily shows the amounts that were used to calculate the 3-year average, what's included in the 2021 budget for both the general fund and the parking fund. So these are the numbers that you're going to see in the resolution next week when I ask you for your approval to use these averages. Total appropriations are now at $52,868,000. Surplus $4 million, miscellaneous revenues $10,000,003. Receipts from delinquent taxes, $775,000. The amount to be raised by taxation has been reduced to $35,475,200. So the total amount to be raised is $37,007,000. This will result in a municipal tax of approximately $4,544 on the average assessed value home in 2021. This shows the amendment that is required because of the 3-year average in revenues. We had to reduce our local revenues by $228,000. The Uniform Construction Code revenue of $79,000. That is offset with the ability to use CARES funds that we've received from the county of approximately $227,000. And we had budget appropriation reductions of approximately $230,000. These are the appropriation reductions that we made for in the amendment, which will bring us to the adopted amounts. That's approximately $230,000. We went through with a fine-tooth comb all different areas of the budget to try and get some reductions. We've discussed with the department directors the proposed reductions. They've agreed to them. So they'll be sharpening their pencils this year as we move through the year. The parking utility budget also required an adjustment because of the 3-year average that we were required to use. So we are now anticipating surplus of $58,000 more than we introduced and reducing the parking meter fees by $58,000. We were also required to put a principal payment in for a note that we had outstanding. So we modified the amount of debt service that we had appropriated. We had more than enough money to just move the $10,000 to a principal payment on note from interest. So that's it. Again, we've brought this reduction down to 4.3%. We've done everything we could to continue to provide the service that village residents are used to, and we will work very hard to make certain that we look at these numbers closely during the year. So we have commitment from all our department directors, and I feel comfortable that we'll achieve that. Any questions?
No, I'd like to thank all the department heads, because this is that each of them took a reduction of at least $10,000 is really, really amazing and very helpful.
We have a good group. They're really good to work with.
Bob, what is the effective tax rate then? Because I'm not getting the number that you're getting when I'm using the suggested Board of Ed increase and then the.
So when you look at the, let's just talk about the Board of Ed. When you look at the tax rate certification that you've been provided with, that you have to consider tonight as well, the changes in that certification are levy to levy. So the Board of Education shows a 2-point-something% increase. That's just going levy to levy. That's not effective tax rate. You follow what I'm saying?
So then what is the total tax rate then to come up with the 45.54 for us?
All right, so you have to go back to, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. You have to go back to that certification. It gives you the estimate. It shows you the effective tax rate in the column. If you want, we could talk about it when we get to that point.
Yeah, because I'm coming up with a different number, a higher number. So I'll call you about it.
Okay. But just to your point, the calculation to get to the 4.3% increase takes last year's municipal rate, this year's municipal rate, and you take the difference over last year's. So there are so many different calculations that you can make, but that's the way I've been doing it since I've been here. So I try to be consistent.
Okay.
Right, that makes sense. Okay. Anyone else questions? Mike or Lorraine? So thank you, Bob, and yes to all of our department heads. Thank you.
And thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I'm sorry.
Wait, again?
Sorry. Bob, this does not include a waiver of the open space tax. Is that correct?
That's correct. The open space tax will be levied.
You wanted that, right, Pam? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to thank Bob and Steve and all the department directors for everything they did to get us to this budget. It was a very tough one to get through, and you know, next year hopefully will be a better year. We'll see. Okay, are we ready to move on?
We're moving on.
Okay, I'll go to Ridgewood Water. It's award of contract for the new water facility on April 15th. 4 bids were received and publicly read for that project. RSC Architects recommendation is to award the contract to the low bidder, Adamo Brothers Construction of Ridgefield, New Jersey, in the amount of $2,363,400, which includes the bid alternate number 1 for the replacement of the roof. Funding for this project is in Ridgewood Water capital budget. The base cost exclusive of the generator, appurtenances, and roof replacement is $2,126,000, which is $226,000 or 12% over the original budget estimate of $1,900,000. So Mr. Calby is here if you have any further questions. He might also just go over who exactly will be in this new building once it's finished, and what % of our staff will be housed there.
Good evening, everyone. Heather, if Dylan could bring in Ralph Walker, the architect, as well,
Okay.
if there's any questions.
Just stepped away. Hold on one second. I will.
I guess while he's doing that, I'll just explain there's going to be 28 of the 41 water employees will occupy this building. Will be for our customer service, operations, SCADA, the lab, engineering, IT, our mapping division. So majority of our main operations staff, all of our field staff will still be located at the Glen Avenue facility in Ridgewood, and we will be abandoning the Wharton Dyke facility in Midland Park, likely using the building for space and considering selling off surplus portions of the property, as we discussed a couple years ago when we were purchasing the Elks Club property. So with that, I'll open it up if there's any questions regarding the actual bids and the award recommendation.
Anyone questions?
I'm a little distressed to see that we're already 12% over the original budget estimate. What does that mean for us going forward? You know, I'm concerned about cost overruns.
I'll let if Ralph Walker comes in, I'll let him answer that question, you know, regarding the overage in the bids and why the numbers came in higher than we anticipated in the budget.
Well, I could probably help out with that. Just construction-wise, materials have gone up unbelievably. I think pre-pandemic, not because the pandemic low is very low for, say, lumber. Lumber since before the pandemic has increased by 3 times the amount. I think copper is at a record high right now. So all the base materials that you need, the inflation is just blowing those prices out of the water. So any kind of cost estimates that were made even a few months ago would be off, because just the cost of everything else has gone up. So I don't know how close I am and how accurate I am, but that's what I'm seeing in what I do every day.
Right. You're pretty accurate. I mean, my husband came home the other day. He was freaked out. He said normally he pays $20 for a piece of plywood. He actually paid $80 for a piece of plywood the other day. Instead,
I'm kind of going to agree with the deputy mayor. I kind of, you know, it's kind of all over the news too. It's a kind of just common knowledge, but why don't we just go on over to Ralph and he can enlighten us. And see if
Sure. Good evening, and thanks for letting me in. I think you stole a little bit of my thunder, but the reality that we're seeing in the marketplace right now, not just with your project, but with other projects that we're actively bidding right now, is that there is a pretty dramatic escalation, both in terms of materials and labor. As many of you probably know, the influx of cash from the federal government into municipalities and schools has opened up the floodgates on projects as well. So we are seeing what was a very competitive market 6 to 12 months ago is quickly tightening. So I think unfortunately the reality is that you are seeing some pretty steep escalation, probably for the next year at least. And part of the reason we made the recommendation that we did is that I do think that while the numbers are higher than what we had originally budgeted, I do think you're getting in at the early stage of what is probably going to be continued escalation for a period of time. So I think you'll actually make out pretty well in comparison with some of your neighbors right now. But yeah, I completely agree. The escalation is pretty dramatic at this moment in time.
Yeah, and the job market is just driving those labor costs through the roof. It's you know, that unemployment rate is just such an impact.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So
okay.
On the flip side, I do think that, you know, again, this is a real positive project for the village. And I know we've worked closely with Mr. Calby in terms of getting a tight design, had the opportunity to work with the mayor closely on this. So I do think that while it's disturbing the numbers that came in from a bidding perspective, I'm confident that we can work with this contractor in terms of getting this done in the budget that's been, reestablished under these bids.
Okay, so are we good with this? I thought I had one question. Okay. Good, I'm good.
Any other? No? Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, wait, I do have one question. So what is our timeline because we get through this and our timeline, when do we think the project will be completed?
In terms of award, if we award essentially this evening, they'll get started right away. I believe that it's a little bit less than a calendar year's worth of work overall in terms of the full construction.
Well, we award next week, right? We don't have a special public meeting, so next week. Hopefully nothing changes from now until then. Okay, so a little bit less than a year's worth of work. Okay, good, perfect. All right.
I have one question. I just want to make sure that this bid is good, until if we award it next week, then the price, once we say, yes, we're going ahead, that price can't go up because of costs. They have to assume in their bid what the costs are going to be.
It's a lump sum bid, which means that it locks in material and labor costs for the duration of the project for the scope of work that's defined in the drawings. There are a handful of allowances that are in that as well that we'll be working within. So yes, that is a locked in price once it is awarded.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, we're good.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Thank you,
Nice
Ralph.
to see everybody. Thank you so much.
The next item is under budget, awarding a contract under the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing Contract for a 72-inch ground master mower in the amount of $27,330.40. I believe your memo says $320, it's $330. And it's to Store Tractor Company of Branchburg, New Jersey, and funding is in the Parks Capital budget.
Any questions?
Okay, the next item is awarding a contract also under the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing Contract for a Toro Sand Pro 5040, Sand Pro 5040 to Store Tractor again of Branchburg, New Jersey in the amount of $34,470.13. And again, this is under the capital budget for the Parks Department.
Questions, anyone?
No, but I don't have a question, but since the public doesn't have the documents in front of them, I just wanted them to know that.
Wait, does somebody have music playing?
Oh, it must have come from Nancy because as soon as she went mute, it went good.
I just thought it was like the mood music for the council meeting. Sorry, Pam, go ahead.
Just so the public knows that this is for grooming the ball fields, and we use it daily. And it's not for use at Graydon. That was my question. But we use it so frequently, it's not something we can share with another town or another department. That's my understanding. I am curious to know the life expectancy of this item and how old the old one is.
So Pam, to answer your question this evening, the life expectancy of this piece of equipment is 15 years. And this is a replacement as the piece that we have now was purchased in 2003.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions for Nancy? We're good.
The last one is awarding the contract again under Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing System for a 52-inch multi-force mower, again to Store Tractor of Branchburg, New Jersey, in the amount of $17,360.65, and funding is in the Parks Capital budget.
Questions for Nancy?
Yes. How is this one different from the 72-inch mower? What kind of different tasks do they do?
The two pieces of equipment are considerably different, primarily in the width of the property of the expanse where we can mow. This Toro 52-inch is actually a 4-season operational piece of equipment where there is an attachment that we are hoping to purchase that will enable us to blow leaves in the fall. And it also has an attachment for a plow, which will enable us to plow the sidewalks in the winter. So this is a remarkable piece of equipment. It is the one that we use to do the various circles and triangles, Grove Street area, Broad, the train station, Park and Ride, and it is the backup for the 72-inch. The 72-inch is the mower that we used for our greater open space lawn areas, say our multi-purpose fields at Veterans Field, Habernickel, Citizens. That's where we would use our bigger mower. And then this smaller mower goes around and does the perimeters of all of these spaces.
And then with the old ones, do you keep them for parts or do you surplus them?
Unfortunately, one of the pieces of equipment we can no longer get parts for. I'm in speaking with Matt today, because these are so old, they're obsolete. And it's sad to say that last week, we had all 3 of our mowers in the shop at the same time. So I can share with you that we are desperate as we approach the spring mowing season for your approval on this and for us to be able to move forward.
So Nancy, I have a quick question. I may have misunderstood what you said, but we're getting those other pieces in this order, right?
Correct.
Okay, because that's what it shows, but I thought you said we would get those later, so my misunderstanding.
No. It's
okay.
The
Yeah,
attachments
that's
are
what it had here.
included.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a lot of good stuff. Looks.
Yes, agreed.
Okay. Anyone else questions for Nancy on that?
Okay. The next item is awarding a contract under the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing System. These are for replacement vehicle lifts, and it'll go to Sturdy Connell USA, care of Hoffman Services, Inc. of Newark, New Jersey, in the amount of $51,076.78. Funding is in the capital budget. It also includes a trade-in allowance of $3,000 for the old lift that it's going to replace.
Any questions?
All right, the next one is awarding a contract under Sourcewell for a rubber tire front end loader for the Streets Division to Jesco Inc. of South Plainfield, New Jersey. The amount is $249,346.80. Funding is from the capital budget. We used to have 5 of these front end loaders, and we're now down to 3. And actually one of those 3 has now died. So it's desperately needed.
Anyone questions?
What's the life expectancy on this?
I don't know offhand. I can get that for you if you want.
Sure, thank you.
Sure. The next item is systemic insecticide injection for the emerald ash borer. As Deputy Mayor Seaton has mentioned many times, the emerald ash borer is here in Ridgewood. We have several hundred of the 650 village ash trees, which were inspected by our arborist. And unfortunately, we thought we'd have more time, but apparently the emerald ash borer is actually here and was observed. Our arborist is recommending treatment of 173 trees, and the immediate removal of 90 trees already determined to be dead or dying. What I found out, I didn't know much about this, but apparently when ash trees are dead or dying, they become brittle and they can just shatter, and limbs can just come down and shatter. So it's very dangerous. So the emerald ash borer feeds on the ash species. The females lay the eggs in the bark crevices on ash trees, and larvae feed underneath the bark of the ash trees. They are invasive and highly destructive. We did get 3 quotes from 3 individual vendors for this insecticide injection. The recommendation is to award the contract to the lowest responsible quote from Dujets Tree Experts, Inc. of Woodland Park, New Jersey, at a price of $16,999.68. And Mr. Rooney has indicated to me that this can be funded through the replacement capital ordinance for the trees, as well as the removals that will go out for later. This can be funded through that part of the ordinance. And the treatment will be done approximately every 2 years in order to try to save these 173 trees. I don't know, Deputy Mayor Seaton, did I cover everything?
Yeah, no, he did a really good job. There's the 173 trees. If you think about it, to plant 173 different trees other than these, and they would keep in mind they'd be 2 to 2.5 inches in diameter, would be, it would be close to $100,000, because our tree replacement program gets us a little bit over 200 trees. So this would kind of butt up against that. And if you look at the size of the trees that are being saved, they range from sizes, I think, to 7 or 8 inches in diameter up to like 27 or 28 inches. So, there's they're all pretty substantial trees. And then there's also a cost to take these trees down, as we see with the 90,000. So I think, economically, aesthetically, this is probably the right way to go. It actually saves us money to save these trees. We don't have to pay to take them down. We don't have to pay to replant them, but we do have to keep up with the injections, I think, over 20 years. So it would be every 2 years. So it's 10 rounds of injections until this, hopefully the species passes through and dies out. But, it's a small portion of, I think, the 650 or so ash trees that are in the total inventory. And that's just street trees. That's not counting the ones on county roads that we didn't count yet, or in parks or private property. So there's going to be many ash trees coming down in the next few years as they get ravaged by the emerald ash borer. But, everybody's dealing with it, and it's just something that we have to deal with also. So I think this is a good way to start. So thank you.
So Mike, I have a question.
Mhm.
If there's 650 ash trees, and we're treating 173 and 90 are dead, that's whatever, 263. What about the other 400? They don't need to be treated yet, or? Well,
they might be smaller, or I don't know. I haven't really gone out and did like an in-depth study. I don't have any information on all the other ones. Some of them may be too far gone to save. There just might not be funding. I don't know. It's not something I can answer right off the top of my head.
Okay. And Heather, the 90 trees that are already dead or dying, is the village of Ridgewood is going to take them down, or are we?
We're going to have to go out for quotes for that, or bids for that.
Okay. And are we going to try and do that this summer? Like,
we have the money, so once we adopt the budget, so we'll go out for those.
All right. Does somebody have like some air or something blowing, because I keep hearing another noise? Is anybody else hearing that, or is it just me?
I did hear it. I don't hear it any longer.
Swishing noise now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Heather, on the bid, the total cost said 26,496, but then the cost on the sheet says 16,999.
Right.
Are you looking at Dujets?
Dujets. There are 3 quotes here. Right. So Dujets is 69.99, 68.
Yeah.
Olmsted was the first.
Oh, sorry. It was attached to the homestead. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
And then the last one was 35.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking at I thought that was the.
Okay.
So I have two questions, actually three. Can somebody get rid of the swishing noise? It's still coming in. I don't know what it is. And so the next question is, those numbers to the left, are those our inventory number of that tree? Is that the identification for each specific tree? Is that what I'm seeing?
Probably the GIS, right? Because we have them GIS.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's what I figured it was.
Well, that's why I'm just want to be clear on it. Is that what that number is?
Under the column that says ID?
I don't see, is there something that says ID?
Yeah, at the top of the column.
Yeah, I don't see where it says ID, but okay, I'll take your word for it. So is that, I guess that's what that is?
If you look at Jets, they have the ID on it. If you're looking at the Homestead one, it doesn't have ID.
Right, so but that's okay, so those are just the identification number for the GIS tree in our inventory. Is that what that is? Okay, yes. Good. Then the next question is, and I think Heather, I may have asked you this already last week, but so because these are our trees, these are village trees. But then these same trees are on private property. So we're going to notify those folks, or how do we do that? What's the plan to say to people, oh, you have this too, because we'll continue.
My understanding is that the Shade Tree Commission was going to do an educational outreach to all residents, letting them know that the emerald ash borer is here. This is what ash trees look like. This is what you should look for. And then obviously residents would have to, get their own tree removal or insecticide injecting service, whichever way they chose to go for these ash trees.
Yep. So I just saw ID. So now when so with this information, like we'll take tree number 1144. So that now will go into the system and say, this is the treatment on that tree on such and such a date. Is that what will happen? Yes. So we'll be able to track that for the next number of years. Okay, amazing. That was one of the best things we did, right? Okay.
Really, this shows how important the tree inventory is and how useful it is. It also makes me think that as we go forward with the master planning process, that an environmental resource inventory is a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a great point.
Okay. The next one is the award of contract for horticultural supplies for the years 2021 and 2022. This would be the first year of that award. We discussed this last week. I know that the council members had some concerns of some of the trees that were on there. I did speak with Matt Andrula, who's the supervisor of Parks, and he indicated that not all the tree species listed will be used. He's aware of the issues, particularly with the purple leaf plum that I believe two of you brought up, and he will not be purchasing it. If there are any other questions, Nancy Bigos is here to answer them, and maybe she can give a little bit more information after the music stops.
We have music and we have a wind tunnel. I'm just
so we're gonna have to listen to that. I'm sorry. It is the chimes on my clock behind me.
Oh, I like the chimes though.
So we can just mellow out a little. So what I can share with you is that the horticulture bid is different than any of the other bids that the village goes out for. This, for the most part, this is live material. And rather than go out for a single vehicle or a single piece of equipment, horticulture is grouped together and all encompassing. So it covers trees, shrubs, perennials, grass seed, fertilizer, soil fabrics, sometimes tools for the guys, anything that can be grouped into this horticultural supplies is actually what we're looking at. $48,000 of this is part of the parks budget The other $8,000 of this bid belongs to Project Pride. So because it's horticultural, we departmentally go out to bid for all of this. I can share with you the magnitude of the warehouse up at Site 1 in Mower. They used to be Shemans. They're down the road a little bit from, help me, what's the boys' school? Don Bosco. It's down the road from Don Bosco off to the left. And it is huge. And there are probably 4 or 5 of them throughout the state of New Jersey that supply horticultural supplies to many of us, schools, municipalities, private institutions. So when we go out to bid for this, the challenge for us is to know horticulturally what plants will be needing pre-season. We don't know what's going to die. We don't know what kind of replacements we're going to have. A large bulk of this, last year we went through 4 pallets of grass seed and 3 pallets of fertilizer. That alone was $16,500. So that takes a third of our bid quote out for those types of materials that we're looking for. So we did on that top sheet that that you questioned, that was the technical specs for ornamental trees, that was in there from my predecessor, and I'll be honest, we cheated a bit and just used the same bid template. But we have no intention of planting anything in the CBD. We will not be touching the tree wells. And hopefully we won't be planting any trees beyond what we might be doing this fall with the tree planting project. I don't know if that helps you. I don't know if you have particular questions for us. So what we do is we list those items which we have already on Village Parks properties, or those items that we're thinking that we might want to be able to use in a design. Last year, we totally rescaped the front of the cash house shell, and through use and abuse, 3 of those endless summer hydrangeas have nothing left but little stalks and roots. So therefore, we would need to be able to find a price on those and to be able to replace something of equivalent size, because you want the design to flow. So that's what we're looking for. So we're not necessarily buying all of these trees, all of these shrubs, but we're looking for a price on them. So when we go out to purchase them, we have an idea.
And it's like a not to exceed then. It's like we can do the same kind of thing with the fleet service. So you don't know what alternator is going to go or what hose or who's going to need brakes. So you have a base bid not to exceed, say, $50,000 or something. And then within that, you could buy whatever emergency parts you need. And it's the same thing with the water department, because they have one for parts and different things with valves and stuff. So it doesn't mean you're going to buy every valve listed. Just in case one blows, then you have money there to buy them.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You're correct.
I have a request. We are a bee city, isn't that right?
Yes.
So we want to be pro-pollinator. And so the best thing for pollinators is native plants. And on the shrub and ornamental list, I see rhododendron hybrid. I'm no expert, but I think hybrids are sterile, and that means they provide nothing for the pollinators. So if you were to try to use natives as much as possible, we'd be doing more for the pollinators.
Okay, we have that noted.
No, the native plants are actually just important for everything: birds, pollinators, bugs, everything. So
water.
Yeah. It's really just amazing thing, so.
Yeah, I put natives in my backyard and the deer had a great time.
Yeah, I'm not a real green person, but I at least know something, so.
Yeah, mine too, Pam. They jump right over the fence to eat them.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Okay.
We'll go on to the next one, awarding professional services for historical architectural services for the University Shetler House. This is the final phase, which is the interior rehabilitation of the house. Connolly and Hickey, the historical architects who have worked on the first phase of the project, have submitted their cost proposal for their services for the final phase, which is $25,950. This includes updating the project documents, project authorization, bidding and negotiation, contract administration, and engineering updates in order to bring it to completion. Again, the recommendation is to award to Connolly and Hickey of Cranford, New Jersey. We do have money available in the budget. We are getting close, and the good news is again, they have to go out to bidders that are certified as historical contractors. So it's a little more involved than just going out to bid, but they'll prepare the RFP, they'll vet the bidders, will go out. The last time I think we had 3 historical contractors. We actually ended up with a great one. And I can tell you that we are well served by Connolly and Hickey because they hold, I think it's every other week, they held project meetings in the last phase. And, you know, they hold the contractors to the exact historic, what they're supposed to be doing historically, exactly what they specified, and nothing waivers. And so they really are very good. So if everyone's in agreement, we'll have a resolution to award that contract so we can move forward with this final phase.
I find this proposal kind of confusing. One, because it's not dated, and it refers to exterior restoration.
It's dated on the first page.
Pardon?
It's dated on the first page.
Okay.
Right behind the memo. It's updated May 2020.
May 2020. Okay, so.
But this is the price they're going to remain. They're going to remain with this price.
All right. Okay, I was confused by their reference saying that since that time, a tarp has been placed over the roof and vents, and I think that was a while ago.
Correct. So they've been through all of these phases. The one piece I wanted to give you information of what they had done, but the piece where it gives the proposal is page 9, and that tells you what exactly they'll be doing for that $25,950. And it's specifically for the interior rehabilitation. As you can see, that's what's underlined.
Oh, so we just, the reference to exterior, I can just cross that out.
Right, correct.
I see.
Crossed it out somewhere else. I'm trying to find it.
Right.
There was another reference.
I could have given you the one sheet with the cost proposal, but for those of you who are new, I thought you might have wanted to know what they've done. I apologize.
They crossed it out.
Actually, Heather, I do appreciate it because on page 4, there's a statement that I really liked. They say, our firm focuses on the practice of historical architecture because of our belief that the presence of older buildings enhances and graces the built environment, providing a connection to local heritage and fostering stronger communities. That mission statement is really important, and I see it in all of Connolly and Hickey's work. So I just appreciated reading this.
Okay. Any other concerns or questions?
No, but on page 8, Pam, if you look there, they cross out exterior on page 8.
Yeah, but they missed it on page 6.
Yeah.
It's still in on page 6.
Underlined so that you would think that you would understand that it was just interior.
And then, does this include project closeout documents? Because I was surprised when we got an extra set of charges from Epic on the garage for closeout documents.
Well, it does say contract administration services, including closeout. It does.
Okay, so that's in.
That's on
part
page,
of this.
that's page 9 again, Pam.
That's
It does it right on, it's like about the 6th line down.
All right.
It's 13.4.
And the asbestos abatement, that already happened, correct? Okay.
Okay.
Anyone, any other questions, Pam? You're good?
I'm good.
Okay, anyone else? Okay.
Okay. The next one, the Village Council adopted Resolution 21-92, which is award of a contract for various parts and materials supplies for fleet services. It was found, once it was adopted, unfortunately, that many of the items in the attachment listed were actually expired contracts. So we are going to do a new resolution. We now have the proper expiration dates for the contracts and the proper state contract numbers. And we're going to adopt it again and then rescind Resolution 21-92 in the same resolution.
Does anyone have questions on this? This was a little confusing, right?
Well, again, it was a mistake, you know, that it should have been checked before it came to us and it was discovered after the fact. The next item is the approval for open space grant funding for Kings Pond Park. The Village Council needs to adopt a resolution to authorize the execution of the Bergen County Trust Fund contract for $74,460 grant from Bergen County for Kings Pond Park Phase 3. This will include the extension of the walking path, overseeing all the lawn areas, split rail fence, park signage, and bike racks, and observation dock. So this allows us to accept that grant. Any questions?
Questions? We're good?
I have a question. So my husband and I took a walk there on Sunday, and it looks like the runoff is taking the walkway and kind of pushing it into the pond. Is there anything that we can do? Maybe put a couple of bags or something to keep it from running off into the water? What do you call that? The crushed stone, the crushed dust. Because it's you can see it's like there's divots. It's like the water ran through it and then it went across the grass and into the.
So Bernie, it was explained to me by Jovan in the engineering department that once the road is paved, that will be, the runoff will be different. I'm not sure engineering wise, but I definitely will bring that to his attention.
Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know. I guess I don't know what the makeup of that stone is, and
okay.
I mean, it is running into the water, so I don't know if we'll get dinged for that. You know, I don't know what's.
Got it. Okay, yeah. I'll mention it to Jovan and Chris.
Yeah, because even if we just put some sandbags to keep it from running down,
or rain gardens, don't they absorb water?
I'm sorry, Pam. Say that again.
Rain or maybe rain gardens would be appropriate because they absorb water.
I don't know. I mean, it definitely made a divot through the you know, through the pathway, and then it just washed it down the hill. The grass is still seedling. It's just still growing. There's nothing to stop it. Yeah.
Okay.
The next item is approval of the Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Grant, again for the Zabriskie Shedler House Phase 2. This again is in order to pay for it. We did apply for a grant from Bergen County. As I mentioned before, it's going to include the interior rehabilitation, which is the HVAC system, plumbing, repair and installing electric wiring, a new electric service box, security and fire protection systems, cosmetic considerations such as plaster wall and ceiling surfaces, repair of doors and windows, restored where needed. The amount of the matching grant is $374,375. And again, it's for the final stage. This authorizes the execution of the grant contract with Bergen County.
Any questions, anyone? Okay.
The next one is the annual resolution for endorsement of the Village of Ridgewood's 2020 Recycling Tonnage Grant application. This confirms Ridgewood's commitment to recycling.
Anyone, questions?
Are we late on this?
Now, the resolution can follow. The application was submitted and the resolution can follow.
Gotcha.
The next one is the request for endorsement for Bergen County Community Development Block Grant from Share Inc. It's for their house at Prospect Street. They're looking to repave the driveway and parking lot, develop a patio for outdoor dining, and install a cement floor in the garage to replace the wooden floor, which is there. The cost is $39,000. As a reminder, these do not obligate any village funds whatsoever. It's just that they do require an endorsing resolution from the governing body of the municipality.
Any questions on that?
Let's do it.
Okay. The next item is the cannabis ordinance one that we had discussed last week. Again, there are 6 classes of marketplace licensed businesses, and we can choose to opt out, and we can opt in at any time. If we decide to zone and opt in at this time and allow, let's say, retail, that would be for a 5-year period. After the 5-year period, we could change our mind about retail, but any retailers that went into the location that we had approved previously would be grandfathered in. A separate ordinance would be about cannabis items being consumed, and that we could basically limit any consumption or smoking, vaping, or aerosolizing cannabis basically to one's private residence. So the League of Municipalities has indicated that by opting out, it keeps the options open for the municipality, because again, if you opt out of everything, you can opt in at any time. And and if we do permit retail, let's say, because that's probably the most likely, because we don't have a lot of open land for cultivating or manufacturing or wholesaling, we could charge up to a 2% local tax for the products, which would be remitted to the finance department in the manner that's prescribed in the ordinance. So now it's up for discussion. Oh, one other thing, sorry. It does have to be adopted no later than our July 14th meeting in order for us to have it done prior to the 180 days that will elapse from the time it was signed in for legalization.
So whatever we decide to do, we really need to introduce next week.
I would say so, yes.
Yeah. So everybody weigh in. What do you want to do?
I'm in favor of a cautious approach.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should opt out and let's see what happens. And because once you opt in, you're kind of stuck. So let's see what happens, what the rules, regulations are, and just watch.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yep, that works for me.
Bernadette, you're muted.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we can prepare this for next week for
Okay, so
introduction.
everyone's in agreement to opt out. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll prepare it for next week and adopt it in June. The next one is the estimated third quarter tax bill. We do this annually because it takes a while sometimes for the county to certify the tax rate. And this way we don't fall behind in collecting taxes. The bills need to be sent out by June 30th, 2021. And this will assure that the third quarter tax rate does not have to be extended due to delays at the county.
Okay. Any questions on this?
Okay. The next one is.
Did Pam have a, Pam, you didn't have a question, did you? Okay. Okay, good.
Next one is approval of municipal alliance grant application. This is also an annual resolution. This is funding, and it's $4,507.18. And this supplies recreational, social, and educational programs in support of preventing alcohol and drug abuse. So we do have to accept, authorize the application and then accept the grant all in one through that resolution.
Okay. Any questions on that?
There's a reference to DEDR on the last page, DEDR. What does that refer to?
I'd have to find out. I don't know offhand.
Where's Nancy? She's on,
Yeah, no, she's still on. It's okay. I'll let everyone know.
Okay.
The next one is the allowing balloons at CBD businesses. So I know that due to the fact that we're going to have the pedestrian mall from July through Labor Day, and that there are certain areas both within the pedestrian mall and also outside the pedestrian mall that would like to attract customers, this is a way to do so. So I know Councilwoman Perrin asked that this be brought back, and Mayor Newton as well.
yeah, so I'm okay with suspending the balloon ordinance. And I know that the Chamber of Commerce would be supplying the balloons. And so the question, I know that Councilwoman Perrin had raised the issue of stationary balloons, but I think that we have some issues with that because they have to be staked into the ground. We already have our A-frame signs, we have other things. So I just think it's best to let them put their regular balloons, and it's less expensive and it serves the purpose of a visual invitation to come shop there. It's, you know, any way that our retailers can be seen and attract shoppers.
There is the environmental concern. We did have, Ellie Gruber came in, mentioned it at in public comment, that the plastic, when the balloons get loose and, you know, they end up in our waterways, and that's not good. I'm still for this. I'm actually wondering whether we should allow the pennants, flags, streamers, banners, similar items that are also in this section of the ordinance. They seem to me pretty benign. And also, since they have to pay for the A-frame to attach this to, I mean, that's what my understanding was.
No, they can just, no, they don't, if they have another way to attach things, they can do it. They're not required to attach anything to an A-frame. Yeah, no, that's not at all.
Because the A-frame is $100 for a year, right? And I didn't want to foist that on them for just the period of the pedestrian mall.
No, I think when that came up, I think what Tracy was saying was that with the stationary things, whether or not there was a way to affix them to the A-frames, and then but not everyone has the A-frame. So, and then it was whether or not it would go in a tree well, or whether it would go here. And I think that Tracy Jeffrey was just processing different suggestions, but there's no requirement to have an A-frame to affix anything to.
Correct.
Okay. What can they affix to?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have to have a parameter. We don't want them fixing it to the trees or to chairs, or, you know, we've got to be able to give them insight into where to.
Right. So G2, if you look on the, let's see, it's page 12. If you look at G2, placement restrictions, it says such signs or displays shall not be chained, cabled, tied, or otherwise attached or connected to any tree, pole, hydrant, planter, container, chair, bench, table, or other item, but shall be wholly self-supporting. I don't know. What's so bad about having them tied to a bench or a chair or a table?
So where did you just read that, Pam? I'm sorry.
G2. G is.
Oh, I see it. I got it. I
on,
thought you said B2, and that's why.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So that's specific to
temporary portable
signs. That code there is specific to that. So it's not relative.
So it doesn't
it's
apply.
not about the other piece. So when you go back, so we kind of have like a blank slate, if you will.
Okay.
So what I would suggest maybe, if this is a good idea, is that maybe two of us head downtown and take a look at how this could work. And then we could have the resolution prepared by Friday or Monday, just to allow that flexibility of how you would achieve this, how you would implement it. Maybe that's a better way, because you might be looking at, there might be ways to tie things to awnings up top and string them over. There might be just other options to do. Does
Yeah.
that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is just be mindful that once the wind starts blowing, if people are walking down the sidewalk, you don't want things blowing into their face, going into their eye. You know, any number of crazy things could happen, and then we don't want to have a lawsuit on our hands.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the thing with balloons, you know, because they're kind of fun and they're free flowing and they catch
Yeah.
your attention because of the movement.
Yeah.
But then if you're walking, you kind of get like that entangled with the thing. So,
Well, one of the sections in this ordinance says whichever signs or displays they're talking about shall be removed in the event of weather forecast for high winds, snow, or ice. So we can do something like that.
hopefully there's no snow or ice, but I'm all into limit the wind. Good. Yeah, we can put that into the resolution that they're required to take anything in the event of, you know, not soft breeze, but certainly a wind. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say, you know, if history has taught us anything, we have to be specific, because if we're not, we'll then have, you know, them hanging from the top of the building, or we'll have them hooked to a tree or on a car with the, you know, tailgate open or whatever.
And this isn't, you know, the whole intent of this is not to have people go out. And I think the reason the chamber said balloons was because she's going to go and get them at the dollar store or somewhere. And I think that the intent was not to put in, like, you know, buying a ton of like stuff, but to just make this kind of visual
Color.
to attract. Yeah, I think that was, you know, it's like kind of the low hanging fruit. Okay. All right. We're good. We'll figure it out.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then under operations, our last item is the person-to-person transfer of a liquor license from King Supermarkets, Inc. to Ridgewood Food LLC, trading as Greenway Markets. Greenway Markets has filed the appropriate paperwork, they've paid the fees, and they've also passed a background check from the police department, and the police chief has indicated that the background check has been completed and the police department approves of this transfer.
Okay. Any questions? Seemed like this one took a little bit, right?
It always takes 3 to 4 months. It's just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the owner didn't do it as timely as perhaps he could have. But, you know, it took about.
It's good. Perfect.
That's it. Oh, I'm sorry, review of next week's agenda. So I have many proclamations. We have Emergency Medical Services Week in May. May is Mental Health Month. We do June is Gay Pride Month. Proclaim June 7th as National Cancer Survivors Day. Proclaiming June 5th as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Reaffirming the commitment and objective of the Village of Ridgewood Green Team, which is for our sustainable Jersey, and then also recognizing Dad's Night Days. We have 2021 budget resolutions, authorizing the 3-year revenue average for 2021 budget, approving the amendment to the 2021 budget, and adopting the 2021 budget as amended. For ordinances, we have an introduction for Ridgewood Water for amending the fee ordinance for water service connection fees. We have no public hearings on ordinances. For resolutions, we have award of contract for software support for the SCADA system, awarding contract for water billing and data collection and processing services, Title 59 approval and award of contract for Ridgewood Water new facility, award of contract under state contract for maintenance of chlorine, pH, and phosphate analyzers, and awarding contract under state contract for lead analyzer. We have introduction of the Cannabis Ordinance. We have the public hearing on the telecommunication facilities in the public right-of-way. We have the continued public hearing on amending Chapter 265 for Glenwood Road one-way street. Resolutions, we have award of contract for systemic insecticide injections for the Emerald Ash Borer. We have Title 59 approval and award of contract for horticultural supplies. We have award of contract under state contract, parts, materials, and supplies, fleet services, or contract under Educational Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing System for the 72-inch ground master mower. Also for the Toro Sand Pro 5040, also for the Toro 52-inch multi-force mower, and also for the vehicle lift system for fleet services. We have the award of contract under the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract for the rubber tire front end loader, award professional services contract for historical architects for the interior rehabilitation of the Zabriskie Shedler House. We do need a pay to play. I have to check to see if we received it. Hopefully we have. We're going to extend the time frame for the grab and go parking spaces. We're going to endorse a library grant application for the New Jersey Library Construction Bond Act. Authorize the execution of Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund project contract for Kings Pond Park Development Phase 3. Authorize execution of Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Fund project contract for the Zabriskie Shedler House Phase 2. Authorize the mailing of estimated 2021 third quarter tax bills. Endorse submission of the recycling tonnage grant. Confirm endorsement of the community development block grant for Share Inc. for various improvements for the Share House at 133 Prospect Street, and relax the enforcement of the balloon ordinance. I'll figure out how to write that. We also have authorizing the application for the Municipal Alliance Grant, and also approving the liquor license transfer for King's Supermarkets to Ridgewood Food LLC.
Do we have to add anything for the on-street dining to extend that?
We should, yes, we should.
So we need a resolution.
Corrals, dining corrals.
Okay.
Okay. Corrals through October 31st. Okay. Okay. That's all. Did anyone want any of those off of the consent agenda? Okay. If you, during the week prior to Monday or Tuesday, if you do look at this again and, decide that you want something off the consent agenda, if you could contact me, that would be great, so that it could be removed and put, off the consent agenda on the actual agenda.
Okay. Everybody's good? All right, with that, we're going to go back to public comments, not to exceed 5 minutes per person. Remember to unmute and state your name and address for the record.
All right, first person is Bob Upton. Please unmute.
Good evening. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Bob Upton, 172 West Glen Avenue. Hope you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Good evening, folks. At the last council work session, my emailed comments concerning West Glen safety improvements were read before you discussed the issue, so I'd now like to add some additional comments. Through emails with Ms. Jackson, I understand the plans for the sidewalks on West Glen between Heights and Monroe that were submitted by Mr. Rudershauser will be put on the village website, but in the meantime, she's kindly sent me a copy, so I'm able to refer to them. First, I would emphasize that my concerns about excessive vehicle speeds, which were echoed in your discussion by several council members, were not addressed in any practical fashion. In fact, the police representative suggested line painting, maybe signs and changes to the Monroe traffic light. None of these are going to slow the traffic down on West Glen Avenue. And in fact, the police representative said that it's difficult to locate radar for enforcement on West Glen. And that's just going to become more difficult. There's going to be fewer places for them to set up radar with sidewalks. My interpretation of the proposed plan shows sidewalks on both sides of West Glen, separated from the roadway by a grass strip, perhaps with trees, with a combined width of 10 feet. In my previous comments, I suggested a 5-foot sidewalk could be sufficient, as was deemed acceptable for the new sections below Heights Road on West Glen. And also, I noticed on North Monroe, there are sidewalks of about 5 feet between the roadway and the walls of the residences. 10 feet will represent an additional 5 feet taken away from the front yards of residences and add expense to the project. In your discussion on the subject, 2 council members commented that they would not want to walk directly next to traffic. One said whizzing by, but it seems okay that that's what was done further down the street. And apparently it's okay that I would have to mow the grass strip with the traffic whizzing by. Also, while wearing my green Ridgewood hat, I would be very happy about additional trees, but I think trees along West Glen would just add to visibility issues and create another safety hazard for vehicles reversing out of driveways. The proposed plan does not address the concerns I expressed about delivery vehicles, construction vehicles, and landscapers having to park somewhere on the street, which will become more problematic with the lost places to pull off the road. While I support the need for sidewalks, perhaps not on both sides of the street, I submit that the proposed plan is unnecessarily costly and infringes unnecessarily into the properties. And while sidewalks will improve safety in some respects, in other ways, new safety hazards will be created. One reference was made to a small car turning around in the driveway to avoid reversing out onto the street. Very few, if any, driveways, particularly on the south side, are going to have room for cars to turn around. We're going to be reversing into West Glen. So I would like to invite you all to come by my house. Coffee will be served. Come by car during the rush hour and come and please experience these issues firsthand. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Bob. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
All right, next person is Scarpa. Please unmute.
Okay, go ahead, Linda. Name and address for the record.
Linda Scarpa, 569 Northern Parkway. I want to start out by saying we, the village, do not appreciate getting misled, nor do we believe it when rumors are being circulated, such as the EMT are sleeping, are late for calls, and when it was implied this information was obtained from the fire chief. Is that why you basically want to defund the EMT? For your information, I heard this very rumor in April 2021. I alone asked the EMT about this issue. It was told to me this very thing happened in 2019 with one employee, and the person was let go immediately in 2019. So my question is, why do you punish the entire EMT? If we use your argument, the EMT is as incompetent as it's implied, why would you allow the EMT to work Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. nights alone without the fire department and weekends, day and night? The argument is moot. For your information, the village council should investigate actually who scheduled the EMT today. That would open your eyes. Do you have any idea how that sounds when you basically publicly degrade the EMT first responders who have served Ridgewood for 4 decades tirelessly, especially during COVID, and the community service they provide? Don't you realize the community service would disappear? Let me remind the village plan would give the fire chief 2 more paid fire employees, even though he already got one in December. So perhaps it seems to me he needs the funding from the EMT, which really is only $70,000, and the rest comes from our pocket. In all fairness, I would think you should have the EMT coordinator come on the council meeting and explain to the village where we're at from both sides of the aisle. I want to know, where's the labor study, a safety study, a cost study? Prove your point with facts before you ask for a 6.3 increase. It's about cost to the taxpayer. Let's let less first responders and more funding for the fire department without any solid reports proving your point and affecting our safety during a pandemic. And for the record, I want you all to know I did my research. My facts are correct. On February 21st, it was clearly stated twice to defund the EMT. You could look at it yourself. The EMT costs the taxpayer nothing. They're funded by the ambulance. I Oprah'd your numbers for the 2 firefighters, what they would cost to the village taxpayer, and which includes the pension, stipend, and benefits. No study was ever given when the defunded paid EMT leave was suggested and how the safety would be compromised with less first responders. There is zero guarantee that the addition of 2 firefighters attending fires and EMT services without the EMT during the day will not decrease safety. When the fire chief says himself on that YouTube, we can borrow EMT from other towns. In terms of minutes, people could die waiting for help from other towns. You know this. People could die in these types of situations. Stop playing with our safety with rumors circulated and not one shred of document proving your point. I want you to know I am not alone. I am putting posts on Facebook, I'll admit it, but I am not alone. We are many. We are angry, and we will speak up before that EMT is decimated. Take your plan and table it. That is my suggestion to you. Be open with the community. Talk to both sides. Do your survey and enlighten the community before you take away the EMT totally. And yes, they will leave, and we are going to be stuck. I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Have a good evening.
All right, next person is Boyd Loving. Please unmute.
Boyd, unmute. Good evening. Hey, Boyd, can you hear us?
Good evening.
Okay, there you go.
Boyd Loving, 342 South 3rd Street. Yeah, I'm on. Got me?
Yep, you're good. Go ahead.
Boyd Loving, 342 South. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Mr. Upton's comments regarding his issue on West Glen and the comment made that Ms. Maylander indicated that plans would be placed on the village's website reminds me that several weeks ago, Mr. Rudershauser was at the council meeting and talked about plans to improve the intersection at Franklin and Maple and East Ridgewood and Maple. And I had requested that those plans be placed on the website and was told that they would be. However, I've looked several times and I cannot find them. So I was wondering if those plans are available, if they could be placed on the website, or if not, if Ms. Jackson could be so kind as to send me a copy of those plans. Also, and maybe it's just me, I'm having a little bit of a difficulty with this concept of Zoom meetings, in that if I'm in the room with you, the only people I'm looking at are the people who are on the dais. For some reason, the Zoom is set up so I'm seeing Ms. Jackson, who I ordinarily would not see. I'm seeing Mr. Hanson, who I ordinarily would not see. And no disrespect to these people, but I think the only people that the public, that the voters should be looking at, are the 5 council members and anybody else who's sitting up on the dais. If you are not sitting on the dais, your face shouldn't be up here all the time. If somebody is called to make a presentation, then Mr. Hanson should bring them in. But otherwise, it's distracting to have to watch all these faces. The only people I want to see are the 5 council members, Mr. Rogers and Ms. Maylander. Anybody else is, they could be in the background, but why do they have to be on the front face of the Zoom all the time? So Again, maybe it's just me, but we voted for the 5 council members. We understand that there's some staff, but I don't think we need to see all the staff that's in the background at all times. Thank you very much and good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening, Boyd.
No, she's not.
Typically, Donna Jackson's on the day. There she is.
Oh, yeah, you might want to unmute Boyd and
That's all.
That's it. Okay, great. With that, I guess Heather, just real quick, we can't put those county plan,
Yes, we've asked for them from Mr. Rogers. We wanted to make sure that they said draft or, before we put them up there. So I think we can get them up before the end of the week.
yeah, I don't know how that works because it's really a big document. It's kind of cumbersome to look at, but whatever. I think we can get it up there. People can see it. It's fine.
It's been in the works.
Okay, perfect. So I guess we'll take a resolution to go into closed session.
I'd just like to mention,
sorry.
Ms. Jackson is on the dais during the meetings.
I'm sorry, I meant to say that too, because Donna Jackson is our deputy village clerk and she's taking minutes and doing her job on the dais. Apologies, Heather, you're absolutely correct.
I think Mrs. Loving also started to say that too, and we can still there. So,
okay.
I am concerned about the EMS situation, and while I have no expertise in public safety, and so I do have to defer to our professionals, I would like more documentation of how much hiring 2 additional firefighters would cost over time, not just for this budget year. That would help me understand the issue better. And the same for hiring a police officer. I would like to know, with all the benefits, how much it will cost over a typical career of a firefighter or a police officer. It would help me do my job better.
Just as a reminder, the issue is a public safety issue. So just that reminder, but okay, I think we'll get you that information.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But
so
I still have to do my due diligence.
Oh, no, I agree. Absolutely. Okay. Resolution to go into closed session. I'm sorry.
Yes. Be resolved by the Village Council, excuse me.
Pam's time is up.
My time is up.
Sorry, Pam. Okay.
Be resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on May 5th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session be held via Zoom teleconferencing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters to include Green Acres diversion and Remington versus Village of Ridgewood, and personnel matters to include village attorney. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 at SEC. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. May I have a motion?
so move.
Second. Second, I'm sorry.
Bernie.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Have a nice